Welcome to our video. I'm Marshall Shannon with Ministry Design Concepts. This is part 3, Ministry Management. For our organizational checklist, you've got to manage certain things. We want to talk about them in this video and give you some explanation and a list. Several housekeeping things we want to cover before we go. You may notice below the video screen that you have a PDF that is included as a download that you can take notes over the things that we're going to cover so that you can capture those thoughts to customize them to your particular context. Number 2 is that there are 4 videos in this series. This is part 3. Part 4 that is coming up is dealing with marketing and some miscellaneous items that we haven't covered in the first 3 videos. Here's the third housekeeping item, is that you can pause the video at any time, scroll down and ask a question or make a comment. Be sure not to click submit the comment or question until you're finished watching the video, because it will start the video from the beginning and you'll have to fast forward it and so forth to catch up to where you were. So as we go through this, I want to again just share with you that there is power in preparing and planning correctly. And so our little mantra is proper preparation, planning, and processes prevent poor performance. We want you to do the discovery phase where you identify all kinds of information, demographic studies, and so forth to determine what kind of ministries you should develop in your church. Then we want you to design those ministries, and when you have designed them and you deliver them, you need to implement them. You've got to manage and lead that ministry in all its components. So at some point, you're going to have to manage and give direction to it after you've implemented it. You manage it, you monitor it. When you monitor it, you measure it. When you measure it, you make some decisions about what needs improvement, and so you modify it through making adjustments, and you adapt the ministry to fit your current context. And so as we go through this, there's a lot to running a church, leading a church, and managing a church and an organization. Let me give you the first thing on the checklist when it comes to managing your ministry, and that is the price. By this I mean managing the money. What money will you need? How will you fund the ministry? Will the ministry require startup funds if you're just starting it? How will you manage the money for your program or project, event, or activity? Who will manage the money? What controls will you install? How will you disperse it? What is the process for spending it? So let's say that you have to buy supplies or equipment, and it's something you're doing on a regular basis. Or, for instance, if you're running a nursery and a children's ministry, and you've got interns who you're paying, are you paying them out of the budget for your particular program, or how are you doing that? The guidelines, you've got to manage your money. And you need to set up guidelines, restrictions, controls, and things to protect everyone involved with the money. You've been entrusted with it, so you've got to answer what are the resources will it require? Not just your money, but time and other resources. Will your particular program or project, event, or activity require of you? Here is a huge thing for you to manage with your ministries in your church. Next on the list are procedures. The what and the how of your program. It's how you're going to get things done. You have a procedure for checking children into your kid space. You have a procedure for checking them out. You have procedures for caring for them, for dealing with them when they get sick, for disciplining them or corralling them and putting them back in line so that everyone else enjoys the program, the project, the event, or the activity. Then you've got preparations, getting prepared weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, or getting prepared for the first time to launch a new ministry. So what is required before you open your doors for business for the first time, or what is required before you open your doors for business each time? What is needed to get ready? You need a checklist of preparations that you have people assigned to do, and you have to bring all of this together. How do you prepare to do ministry? The next item is paperwork, record keeping, and reporting. Someone needs to be there to record everything and to report everything. And then let me encourage you to manage your ministry by being proactive. This is getting ahead of the problems you're sure to have and to head them off or prepare for them when they happen. You need to know how you can stop them, and you need to know how to prepare for them when they happen, and you need to know how to take care of them and solve them once they do happen. Then there are prerequisites. By that I mean what is required before something is allowed to move forward. There are prerequisites that are placed voluntarily by the leadership of a church or by the government or by your circumstance in some way. The next thing on the management checklist is premeditations. By this I mean planning ahead, thinking ahead. And then sometimes we have premonitions, and you have to manage those premonitions. A premonition is a forewarning by your intuition. It's there. You might not be able to explain to anybody else, but you learn to take action on them and to plan ahead for those things. So you take precautions. Prudence. This is wisdom. It's using information and knowledge wisely. You want to show that you are a person of prudence, you're prudent, that you are wise about how you manage your ministry. And then let's deal with problems. Preparing for them and solving them. They're going to come. What are they going to look like? How do you categorize them? How do you prepare for them? And how are you going to solve them? We already talked about being proactive. So with your problems, you're going to be able to decide, or should be able to decide, how to handle potential problems. They're going to come in the form of people and other things that happen. How are you going to deal with that? I'll give you an example. We took a mission trip years ago. We took 18 teenagers and 18 adults, something like that, 32, 36 people, and we traveled 1,700 miles to our first stop where we ran Vacation Bible School, Cola Wars for teens in the evening, and went and did visitation. We took all the preaching and the music on Sunday, and we just came in and tried to give this small church a shot in the arm. It's one of our guys we helped prepare and supported for the ministry, and we ran into problems. One of the young men, late in the evening after everything was over, he dunked a basketball in an outdoor goal. When he did, he caught his finger and tore his finger, cut into his hand. Well, I had a nurse and an EMT guy with me, but we were, I don't know how many miles, 50 miles maybe, from the nearest doctor. And so I jumped in the car. For some reason, I went with them. No, I've come to think of it, they didn't. The nurse and the EMT, who was also a police officer in Greenville, those three put him in there, took off down the road. So you had two sponsors who were qualified to care for this young man who hurt himself in an activity, just playing ball afterwards. That could have happened, by the way, any number of times all during the week, because this family that the kids stayed with had a trampoline. And so with problems, you foresee them. You listen to your premonitions, your intuition. You talk to other people's experience about it. You look at the place where you're going, and you become proactive and decide if we're going to have a health problem, if we're going to have a safety problem, how are we going to take care of that? And so when I planned these short-term mission trips, I had cooks and chefs, I had cops, I had caretakers, I had custodians, I had medical personnel, I had all these different people that could plug in and come prepared in their skill set and with their equipment and praying it through and preparing it through mentally to care for problems that we were likely going to have. Mechanics, having them with you on a short-term mission trip is pretty smart because you could blow a hose and a motor and be able to fix it right there. I had mechanics that we took on our short-term mission trips when we borrowed someone's school bus. Now, here's the next thing on the list, and that's preliminaries. These are introductory first steps. In other words, maybe an orientation for your leaders or your workers or your participants, and you're going to go through some preliminary preparation before they are fully involved in this activity. So let's say that you're going to go horseback riding, and you're taking your youth group and you set them down, and the leaders and the workers have an orientation, and all participants are given an orientation by the stables that are providing the horses, the trail, and the equipment to go with it, and the trail guide that is leading you on this horseback ride. Or let's say you were going to do something, for me, really fun, and that's paintball war. Well, you might have the people who are providing and have the land where you're having the paintball war, that they have an orientation for everybody involved. There are preliminaries that go on before you do the activity, the event, the program, or the project. That's just an important part of doing some key events that you may do in your church. And then there are precedents that are set up. Precedents are something that serves as an example or justification for a future decision or action. And you have them. And someone says, well, you know, we did this before. We allowed this before in a ministry, a project, a program, an event, or activity that you did. You can set a precedence for letting certain people be involved or letting them do certain things. It could be any number of things. But you need to have that on your checklist and decide how you're going to do that. What are you going to allow and not allow that are precedents? Now, preconditions. By preconditions, I mean that you can minister on certain conditions that you are agreed upon ahead of time. There are preconditions for doing ministry or being part of an event or an activity or a project. Preconditions, and you need to identify what they are. They're similar to precedents, which gives you allowance, but preconditions is involved as an agreement to something that has to happen or be agreed upon ahead of time. Then you've got parts and portions. I say this because you ought to pull all the parts of your program, your project, your event you're doing, or your activity that you're doing. You're pulling all of the parts and portions together. And you're looking to avoid the problem of not seeing the forest for the trees. And you need to be able to see it and be able to manage it and lead it and be able to work it all together. And you can do big programs that involve thousands of people. Let me give you an example. I was a part of a church plant here, and in the first 2 years we did it, we decided to do a family fun fest at a local park where they had a soccer field, and we ended up providing food, pizza and hot dogs, all kinds of chips, all kinds of drinks, soft drinks and water, and then we had a popcorn machine, we had a cotton candy machine, we had, 350 bags of peanuts from Texas Roadhouse, a local restaurant chain, and we had to get a police officer, we had to get EMT and nurses, we had to get tents and inflatables and tables and picnic tables and welcome center. We even had one of those NASCAR real-life car that you sat in, and it was automated and had projectors and TV monitors, and you got to race on a course and steering and driving. All of that was this first thing. We had 58 people in the church. 47 of them showed up to set up, run it, and tear it down. And we did it in 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock. We thought we might have 400 people, and we had over 1,000 people show up. We didn't feed 300 people. We fed over 750 people. We had to be able to see all the parts and all the portions, pull it all together, avoid the problem of not seeing the forest for the trees. We had to see how everything fit together, and we pulled that thing off. And so when you go to do big events, my wife and I were in charge of the food. Oh my goodness. I spent my entire time running back to the pizza house and to the grocery store to get more supplies, more food, order more pizza, and it was just a lot of work. And we made huge strides into our community by ministering to them and got introduced to throngs of people. And it was a great time, and we've done it several times since. Now, let me talk to you about managing the performance of your program, project, event, or activity. By this, you're going to have to set up your own methods for measuring and reviewing the performance of everyone involved. Then let me talk to you about protecting your ministry. By protecting your ministry, I've broken it down into several parts. First is security, police who patrol. Now, I just mentioned the Family Fun Fest where we had over 1,000 people show up when we only projected we'd have 400, 300, 400 people. Well, we had a police officer there, and we have them all the time with his car in uniform, and we had him walking through and talking to people. But if we had a problem, we didn't want to have to be the ones responsible to handle it. We wanted to be there to assist the officer and help protect him if a gang came. But at the same time, you know, we had to have police there to patrol. Same thing can go for your campus, or if you're having a big event like that Family Fun Fest off campus, that's one part of protecting everyone involved and controlling the environment, the place, and the situation. Then there's safety during the program, project, event, or activity. Remember I just mentioned here having horseback riding or having a paintball war, and you've got to provide the right gear and the right training, and it is secure as best you can everyone's safety. And then the third thing is insurance. So the property, the people, the performance, and everything else that comes with church insurance, so that you are properly managing and stewarding, protecting the people and the program and the project that you're doing and so forth. Let's look at the next item, and that is property. You're going to have property, whether you're leasing it, renting it, using it temporarily, or you own it. So it could be your buildings, your grounds, your furniture, could be your equipment, and you've got to manage every single one of those. They have to be stewarded. They have to be cared. Your buildings have got to be cared for so that they're secure and they're safe to use. Your grounds, the same thing. Your furniture, so that it's kept in good working order, and your equipment, because there are safety issues and there are performance issues. But you've got to manage your property. Whatever God has entrusted to you for whatever time and whatever amount, you've got to show yourself to be a good steward of that which He has entrusted to you. Then you're going to have places that you use in your ministry. It's where you do ministry. And you've got to manage it and think through the places. I regularly help churches vet a particular piece of property before they move ahead. And we run them through a gauntlet, just as a phase one, where I visit the property with them, go through it if it has buildings on it or nothing on it, and we look at where they're planning to do ministry. Well, you've got to really use some wisdom in determining what meets your ministry needs. What place will best meet your ministry needs? And then provisions. This is huge. I've only given just a little bit of question here, but what will you make available for ministry? What provisions will be needed hourly, weekly, quarterly, monthly, annually, semi-annually, by the quarter, by the semester? What will you make available for ministry? You've got to stay up with the provisions so that they're cared for and they have what they need? What about pastoring participants, where you care for them and shepherd them? So you're caring for them physically, emotionally, mentally, physically, and you're shepherding their souls. So you want to check this off, that you have people who are passionate about that, gifted at that, that their shape, remember their spiritual gifts, their H, their heart, their passion, their abilities, the A, their personality, and their experience makes them a good fit as you put together a team of pastors who will shepherd and lead the people and care for them in all of these ways. This is a part of your stewarding the opportunity to care for people's souls. And then personalities. You're going to have a diversity of personalities and different packages of people, how they're packaged together, how God put them together in the womb, how they were nurtured and nature and nurture, how God formed them in the womb, and how they have been nurtured as they have grown up. And so you want to begin to study and understand how you're going to group people together and how you're going to care for them as you carry out your program, your project, your event, or activity that you are having, whether it's short-term or long-term or in between, so that you understand the personalities and how they blend and work together, and what packages you put together of people that explodes on you in a bad way. Then there are prerogatives that you have to manage, and this is the privileges to make decisions as you wish. That's a prerogative. Well, your preference is carried out. Well, who's going to get their prerogative? Who's going to get their way? Who are you going to trust to make decisions and let them do what their best judgment tells them to do in the moment? And how are you going to blend that into preparing for the ministry, preparing for the program, the project that you're doing, the event that you're holding, or activity that you're doing that day? Then you have to manage progress. Moving forward and improving, you certainly want to do that. You don't want to go backwards. You don't want to stall out. And ministries come in several packages. You've got those that are strong and stable. You have those that are stalled out and stuck. Then you have those that are shrinking and sinking, and they're struggling to stay alive. And you really want those who are moving forward and progressing, not just stable and strong, but they're not really improving and moving forward. You certainly don't want them plateaued where they're stalled out and stuck in not moving forward, or worse, they're shrinking and sinking and struggling for their very existence. You want to manage the progress so that you know that that ministry moves forward. It takes leadership and management to consistently see and intentionally see any program or project you're doing move forward and improve. So you want to measure the method and create measuring methods for determining progress. Now, this is very important that you do it biblically and practically. Decide ahead of time how you're going to measure your progress, so you can make modifications, so you can adjust and adapt a ministry or a project while it's live and happening. Then there are things that prohibit you. How will you manage hindrances? It's anything that hinders or denies or forbids you from doing something, and you have to manage them. For instance, you have building codes. You can't cram 1,000 teenagers legally into a space that is only qualifies under the codes to hold 500. And that's going to prohibit you from having that 1,000. You've got to deal with that, and you've got to manage it and be proactive to know what that's going to mean. Then you're going to have proposals brought to you in a number of forms. But how will you manage suggestions? Someone makes a suggestion, a proposal. And then secondly, someone makes a business proposal to you to buy a product or to buy a service or to use a particular product or curriculum, and you've got to manage those proposals. Now, let's talk about managing prizes. How are you going to award and reward your participants, your leaders and your laborers in any particular program, project, event, or activity? And what policies and procedures will regulate how you award and reward prizes? So if you're using that as for some motivation or some reason in your philosophy of ministry to give prizes, how are you going to do that? What's that going to look like? So as we go through this, you've got projects that are events and activities. You've got programs that are either permanent or seasonal, and you've got parades. Then I say parades just to stay with the list of P's, just passing by for a purpose, and it's a temporary event or activity for a stated time. When you look at all of this, I've given you a checklist for you to go through and think through every one of these components, every one of these P's, to see if you might be missing something in your leadership, management, and stewardship of the ministry God has entrusted to you. Well, I'm Marshall Shannon, your ministry design coach with Ministry Design Training and Ministry Design Concepts. You can reach me at this email address or either one of these two phone numbers, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you for listening. I trust it's been a blessing to you.